founded sometime in the 34th millennia, the Sable Owls are a loyalist chapter of the Adeptus Astartes with a long record of service to the Imperium. Originally a fleet-based chapter, the crusade against the Groldrabad hegemony, a moderately sized Xeno faction of the time, was so successful that upon confirmation of the species' extinction, the chapter was given one of the worlds they helped to conquer as their new home planet. Telthaxilum 3 is a remarkably temperate world, nowhere near as harsh in terms of environment as one tends to think for Astartes worlds. The reason for this is that the planet has no native human populations, and so there is no reason to worry about picking an uninhabitable region just to deter visitors or ensure privacy, as the Owls view such actions as a waste of resources and effort. In addition, the planet is rich in mineral deposits, which chapter serves and servitors mine as a means of both directly supplying the chapter with materials, as well as providing them with resources to trade them to the Adeptus Mechanicus for services and requisition of more advanced and limited equipment. Having no native populations of humanity to draw upon in their territory and unwilling to take in the colonists that settled down to start numerous agri-worlds as the newly claimed territory was colonized, the chapter needed a long-term solution. It was the second chapter master, a man whose name is sadly lost to history, that hit upon an unconventional solution to a lack of recruits. One of the worlds in their territory, Sahasharin Prime, was a death world with no true value, strategic or material to exploit. The sandy wasteland of a world held little in the way of water, and poisonous vermin and reptiles were numerous, as were larger, stranger silicon-based life forms. The second chapter master is the one who decided to give the world value by exploiting its nature as a death world and the fact that space marines could wait a long while for investments to pay off. He had over 500,000 penal colonists sent to the planet with no supplies but the clothes on their backs, intended to create a death world tribal population. After all, there was nowhere near enough resources to sustain even half that many people, and so, by nature and design, they would be forced to divide and fight, ensuring the survival of the strongest mentality would develop that, combined with a lack of technology, would result in a primitive tribal system of perpetual war. To help ensure and accelerate the process, he had another shipment of 500,000 criminals sent in from a separate penal colony at the same time, creating an instant other to help fuel the fires of war. After a couple of centuries, the chapter suddenly started adding more water to the planet's system. Nowhere near enough for the planet to not be a desert, but enough to help stabilize the tribal populations and even encourage some growth in numbers, ensuring a larger stock to cull initiates from. The environment and mixing of many human stocks over the centuries has resulted in what is now a standard phenotype for the people of Sahasharin. A medium to dark tan skin pigmentation combined with short, thick and curly blonde-colored hair gives them a very striking look by galactic standards. Another striking feature is their lack of clothing, as the tribes do not have any material to make such things, and any materials the tribe does get are better spent elsewhere in their struggles to survive. Their warriors favor lean, wiry, agile builds, with weaponry largely being axes hewn from bone and stone, as well as the occasional spear when longer structures that can serve as such can be claimed. The most valued of weapons, however, is the tail blade of a Keskeka. An inedible silicon-based beast of great size, it feeds on silicates and sunlight and is highly aggressive and territorial. Unable to provide food or water, taking nothing but the tribe's needs, and bravest, most skilled and possibly most foolish of warriors will sometimes seek out such a beast to challenge them, for to slay one is to claim its tail. The bottom section of the Keskeka tail is a single, large kitten's plate that is sharp on both sides that the beast uses as a weapon for both attack and defense. These 3-foot-long natural blades are sharp and quite hard, making for truly outstanding weapons by the standards of this world. Indeed, not only does slaying such a beast provide an excellent weapon for the tribe, but it has a great chance of drawing the attention of the Sky Gods. Mighty and terrifying giants with shells harder than any stone or beast, they come to claim the greatest of warriors to fight a battle against the ultimate evil in the divine realms. Not only is this a great honor in and of itself, but the Sky Gods even pay for the services of the warriors they take with an extravagant gift, a large pot full of water for each warrior they take. The sheer paradise of a temperate planet compared to their hellish homeworld is often more mind-blowing for the initiates than the travel through the stars. In addition to the standard genetic screenings and hypno-education and indoctrination, all Astartes go through additional heavy hypnotherapy that is used to ensure that the initiate has no issues with the barbaric conditions engineered to create their society for the chapter's exploitation. They are conditioned to unquestioningly view it as a needed sacrifice to ensure the chapter's continued survival, and through it, the prosperity of not only the region of imperial space they are responsible for, but the ability to go to the aid of any world in need. The Sable Owls do not follow the imperial cult and its worship of the Emperor as a god, fully understanding that viewing a more powerful being as a deity is the result of a more primitive and weak mind full of ignorance. However, unlike many chapters, the Owls do not view themselves as inherently superior to normal humans. They merely view themselves as more efficient tools for the theatre of war, as they were designed to be. The Sable Owls note that all their advantages would be practically useless outside of battle, such as on any of the animal ranches or fruit orchards within their own territory's agri-worlds. They view the Imperium as a great, vast and complex machine created by the Emperor, a being far enough beyond them to be mistaken for a god, and as such know that any flaws within it are the result of inferior execution of the Emperor's will. All are to do their part in this grand plan, to be the best they can be, and to be loyal and masterfully crafted tools in the Emperor's hands. This applies to every farmer, guardsman, governor, inquisitor, manufactorum, and especially for every Astartes, for they are the Emperor's angels of death, and the Sable Owls intend to live up to this title and duty to the best of their ability. While many chapters choose their method of dealing death based upon their genetic heritage, the Sable Owls are different, though this difference from their primogenitor is still influenced by their gene seed. If one were to base their assumptions of heritage upon tactics, namely a reliance upon stealth and sabotage, as well as their heraldry, one could be forgiven for mistaking the Owls as a successor to the Raven God. However, a lack of any of that lineage's flaws puts all such theories to rest quickly. Official imperial records list the Owls as being of ultramarine stock, while the chapter's own records and traditions proclaim them as descendants of the White Scars. However, both are suspect for one serious reason. Both gene seed stocks are well known for their high level of stability, and the Sable Owls have developed a minor but notable mutation over the millennia. Their Lyman's ear has mutated in an unusual way. This mutation makes the organ even more sensitive than normal for a space marine, giving them a superhuman hearing even in comparison to their Astartes brethren. However, it has lost the natural ability to filter and isolate sounds and does not maintain equilibrium as well. The mutation sparked some debate and controversy. Due to differences between chapter and imperial records, no fresh gene stock was approved, as the Imperium would not offer stock that did not match their records, and the Owls would not accept stock that was not of the Primarch they held themselves to be descended from. Once the mutation spread from being a couple of isolated members to being largely chapter-wide, it was decided that the Sable Owl's gene seed would be isolated, ensuring that no successors would use them as gene stock. They would also be allowed to continue on as a chapter upon the completion of a 300-year penitence crusade for their failure to protect the purity of their genetic heritage. Their penance was recorded as complete in 264 M37. The tactics of the Sable Owls, as stated earlier, is heavily influenced by their altered Lyman's ear. Due to their greatly enhanced hearing, they are far more aware of their environment and any noises they themselves may make, enabling them to reach higher levels of stealth that many would believe possible. For this reason, stalker pattern bolters are in higher supply, intended for stealthy assassinations and weakening of enemy forces. A favored tactic is what the Sable Owls call a Knight of Feathers, named after the silent gliding of their namesake, which is indeed caused by the specially designed feathers. A Knight of Feathers is a type of night infiltration tactic where a squad proceeds to enter an enemy encampment or stronghold as quietly as possible, eliminate as many targets as they can, as quickly as they can, no priorities beyond sheer kill count. Knives, stalker rounds, and crushing of throats and the smothering of screams. Some Knight of Feathers result in entire fortresses dead, and the defenders having never realized that they even needed to fire a shot until it was too late. Their heightened senses and awareness also mean that the Sable Owls excel at urban warfare, being aware of ambushes, gun nests, underground passages, and many other obstacles that normally make such areas a death trap to pass through. This, combined with their stealth, enables them to turn many would-be kill teams into coffins. The Sable Owls are a largely Codex-compliant chapter, with the exception of a lack of assault squads. Due to their mutation, the constant roar of the jump pack so close to their head, combined with the rapid altitude changes, is disorienting to the owls, something that is not an issue for a standard Astartes. The same issue also precludes the use of drop pods and the famous Iron Rain maneuver, favored by many chapters. When rapid assaults are called for, they instead take a page from their Primarch Jackatai Khan's own book and utilize fast attack bikes. While the engine would normally be quite distracting under normal circumstances, these bike squads have programmed their helmets to filter out the engine noises. This is not without its own problems, however, as they now have no auditory cue for each other's vehicles, only able to confirm each brother's position through weapons fire and visuals. Because of this proper formation, discipline and commitment is key, as it is exceedingly hard to adjust formations on the fly without constant visual aid. This has also led on more than a few occasions to the bike riders being unaware of enemy vehicles if their own engines are close enough to the bikes in tone and frequency to be filtered out as well. For all these reasons, the owls much prefer avoiding situations where rapid assault is called for, preferring stealthy assaults or even straight-up slugging matches to rapid, large-scale battlefield maneuvers. Of minor note is that most Sable Owls wear Mark 6 Corvus power armor, as over half of the chapter uses these well-tested and proven models. When new armor is called for, they do however acquire the latest model at the time, seeking to maintain them in working condition for as long as possible. Indeed, there is even a venerable Mark 4 armor adorned with the simple color scheme of the owls, being sable, a sort of dark, muted brown, with black upon the knees, elbows, aquila and pauldrons. The chapter's heraldry is a sable owl, as the name suggests, drawn to appear as if swooping at the viewer. When rendered beyond a simple one-color marking, the wing and tail feathers are colored dull grey and the beak and talons yellow. In all cases, whether rendered in full color, sable, or as a black stencil, special care is made by the chapter to always include the detail of bright yellow eyes upon their mark. The lack of such eyes is a clear indication that such a mark was made by one outside of the chapter, such as is often the case with imperial records. Of such importance were the eyes to early Sable Owls that they even commissioned for the eye lenses of their own armor to be tinted yellow instead of the standard red. While the meaning and importance of the eyes has been lost to time, the chapter continues to uphold them out of a sense of duty, with even their latest armors sporting yellow lenses. A far more interesting and concerning note is the rarity of librarians within the chapter. The gene stock of Sahasharin does not seem inclined to psychic ability, and there is often only a single librarian within the chapter at a time, sometimes even as few as none. While several chapters, such as the Blood Ravens, are known for having an abundance of psychers in their ranks, the Sable Owls are notable for their dearth, especially as it is not a deliberate dearth as some chapters that fully shun librarians engineer. Due to the lack of reliable librarian presence, and numbers of the owls rarely, if ever, utilize them except in large-scale mobilizations. Even then, they are often seconded to other chapters for the duration of the campaign to work with the librarians of another chapter that can make better use of their talents. Despite their desire to be the most useful and efficient tools of the Emperor upon the battlefield, their lack of experience or resources in this area leave them woefully unprepared for the use of psychic abilities on a tactical or strategic level. When it comes to the chapter's view of the Primaris Marines, it is a very mixed bag. Some view the Primaris as a useful tool for the Emperor, and if they truly are better servants for the Emperor, then it is only right that they will eventually replace their firstborn. Others are worried that being unproven by millennia of combat, the Primaris will prove in the end to be a failure, and that over-adaptation to be a failed tool will cost the Empire greatly. All of this is exacerbated by the chapter's acute awareness of their own minor genetic flaw that the Primaris naturally lack, creating a greater sense of inferiority. It should be clarified that this is the view on Primaris Marines as a whole, and not the ones gifted to them specifically, which they have much more issues with. First among these is the Primaris genetic heritage. Being based on imperial records and refusing the traditions of the Sable Owls, their Primaris are descended from Gilliman as dictated by imperial record, not the Khan as the chapter maintains. Not helping the matter was that many Primaris, when first inducted into the chapter, refused to change their lens color from the standard red to yellow, especially when no adequate reason beyond tradition could be given. The presence of several Primaris librarians also causes great unease in the chapter. While the Primaris as a whole are considered a potentially useful tool, the ones assigned to the chapter are considered infiltrators who falsely claim the title Brother and seek to dishonor the traditions of the chapter. As such, the Primaris are given only the most dangerous and unsupported of missions, many of which aren't even strategically optimal or necessary, and attempts are made to keep them as undersupplied as possible in an attempt to have them simply, quote-unquote, die out on missions for the chapter and simply not receive or create replacements of ultramarine stock. A few quiet, discreet messages have been sent to Mechanicus allies about acquiring Primaris gene seed of White Scar stock so that they can obtain, quote-unquote, proper brothers. The Primaris, for their part, are well aware of the hostility being directed at them, but are unaware of the intended genocide towards their contingent. This is due to their knowledge of the Sable Owl's larger neutral stance when it comes to the Primaris in general. Since they know one of the Firstborn's greatest fears is that the Primaris will prove to be ineffective in the long run, they believe that their repeated high-stakes missions have been a sort of gauntlet or proving ground to prove themselves worthy of being part of the chapter. Rumors that the chapter has been making inquiries to Mars about the acquisition of additional Primaris gene seed stock is considered a good sign of progress towards being accepted by their surly and mistrustful brothers. For if they did not accept their brothers, why would they be making such inquiries? If the truth were to get out, it would most certainly erupt into a civil war within the chapter, one that the Primaris are not likely to win. Far fewer in number, even when gifted to the chapter, which was at nearly full strength at the time, the grueling missions have only further reduced their numbers. Still, even so, the superiority of the Primaris might win out in the end if such a conflict were to occur. Who can say which Primarch's sons would prove victorious in such a struggle, if they even truly are sons of separate Primarchs?